The 2022 World of Outlaws Rookie of the Year is coming back on tour in 2026. Spencer Bayston is taking his talents to Stenhouse Junior Marshall Racing beginning next season. The operation will be crew chief by Kyle Puit and supported by longtime team and series sponsor NOS Energy Drink. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and Richard Marshall got their guy, and he's joining me now. Spencer, great to have you. Obviously, great to talk to you here tonight. But everybody at the World of Outlaws and Dirtvision, we're really excited to have you and Audrey back on the road with us next year. And this is obviously a big ride that needed a driver for 2026, and you got that. So congratulations, first off.
Yeah, thank you very much. We're certainly excited to be back on the road and be back with the Outlaws. I think it's fair to say any young kid that aspires to be a race car driver obviously always dreams of racing with the Outlaw guys and being on the Outlaw Tour. So happy to jump back on the road and do it with such a great group that Ricky and Richard have assembled.
You know, the sprint car silly season has moved so fast. We've seen driver and crew chief changes a lot the last couple of months, and a couple of plans, being announced for next season, stuff like that. We've got, drivers retiring like Brad announced earlier this week. So I guess, is it refreshing or, does it give you some peace of mind to have your plans for next year set in stone before October's even over and not have to walk around PRI and walk around Chili Bowl trying to piece together a ride during the off season?
I've spent enough winters doing that piece together, trying to figure out where you're going to land, if you're going to be able to land anywhere at all. So to be able to have it locked in and already starting our planning and work for preparing for next year underway feels really good. It's definitely a sigh of relief, and we went a few weeks there this last couple months just kind of not sure where it was going to take us. Not sure if I was going to be a full-time guy, a 20 race guy, if I was going to be able to race at all. So definitely feels good to have something locked down and one of the best rides in the country too. Obviously a team that's had a lot of success, has a very, very well-known brand associated with it with NOS Energy Drink. Super proud to be able to have the opportunity to represent them and try to just carry on the legacy that they've built up until this point.
We all think they're going to be great for the NOS brand. As soon as we had kind of heard that this was happening, a lot of us with the Outlaws and just I think people around the industry recognize the face that you're going to be for them, and we think that'll be a good fit. Is the expectation that you guys are going to be able to roll into Volusia and immediately contend to win races? I'm assuming that's the goal.
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously always the goal. And frankly, for the equipment that they have and what they've proven just here in the last few days, fully capable, right? I don't expect to get in and just gel immediately and feel like I've been racing the car for the last handful of years. Obviously, it's going to take a little bit of adjustment, but I feel like we've proven here the last handful of weeks that jumping in a couple different cars and having pretty immediate success, it gives it obviously really good possibilities. So that's our plan, that's our vision, is to get comfortable and up to speed there first night out and hit the ground running, and obviously start clicking off weeks pretty quick with the Outlaw schedule, and obviously building towards a championship program or championship contending program is obviously the concept. So can't waste too much time getting comfortable, but I'm confident in Kyle's ability and the equipment that the team has provided to be able to hit the ground running and be competitive right out of the gate.
So let's reflect for a little bit, again, not to dwell on negatives too much, but let's reflect on the last couple of years a little bit and how you essentially got to the situation you were in at the end of this season. Nobody's going to sit here and say that the 5 is not a good ride. The 5 is a fast car. The JMR 14 is a very fast car. Noisy's a great crew chief. And you're an incredibly talented race car driver. I mean, you've proven that time and time again that you've got what it takes to race with the best and beat the best. The last couple of years, though, and even specifically this year, the numbers just weren't where you wanted them to be, where everybody felt like you were capable of being. What's been missing for you the last 2 seasons that has caused some struggles along the way?
Um, it can always be a number of things. I can't really sit here today and say exactly what the issue was. Obviously, I've been fortunate to always have raced good equipment here these last handful of years between all the cars I've gotten in. I don't. I'm not one to really just jump into something just to go race. Like you want it to be good equipment and competitive, and all those cars have been proven to be competitive. I think we had our stint that we were pretty competitive in the 5 car, and it just kind of fizzled out. I think there's a number of reasons why, in my personal opinion, but I know the other side may have their own opinions on why. And then in the 14 car, obviously getting into that, watching Corey do what Corey's been able to do the last handful of years. I think there's no question Corey's obviously extremely talented, but cars have to be really really good and gripped up and have the balance and comfort that any driver needs. But for whatever reason, we struggle to consistently build that package. And there's so many variables in sprint car racing, as everyone knows. It's not just motors. It's not just the car. It's not just the mechanic. It's not just the tracks you're racing at, and it's definitely not just the driver either. So it's just a number of things that, for whatever reason, we went through a lot of different scenarios. I've never been in a situation that there's been a lack of effort and trying to pursue that speed and get that speed. The 14 team did a phenomenal job at communicating, sitting down, putting everyone's heads together, and really trying to analyze and determine, okay, what is our issue? What do we need to change? Where do we need to invest more into? What do we need to pull back from in order to have success? And it ran its course, and obviously it's no secret that it didn't go well as we all would have hoped. But I think it's fortunate the way that it panned out. Obviously, not burning any more cash, taking the car out to finish the year on the ownership side when you're not getting the results that you want, and then for myself to be able to somewhat resurrect my stock a little bit and bring that back to life. Being able to jump in the W car right out of the gate, being a top 5 contender every night, getting in the 21, being a top 5 car again, and almost winning a couple races. I think that just helped recover what I had lost this last little stretch. So, like I said, reiterate, none of it was ever a lack of effort. I don't have anything bad to say about anyone that I've worked with. It's just it's got to be the right chemistry and the right gel that everyone works together well. And I'm comfortable in the equipment and the way the cars drive and how they're set up and the balance and the grip and all that stuff. So number of things just didn't go the way I wanted them to, but foreseeable future, I think I'm definitely looking up to getting in the 17 NOS Energy drink car to be able to go out and compete, and getting to watch them these last handful of nights with Kyle on the wrenches has been pretty impressive. They've
I
got up to speed quick.
I really want to talk about those races at Tulare. That's going to be my question here in a couple of minutes. But you do mention Corey, and I think that's worth touching on, because I think it's easy for people to sit here and say, oh, look at what Corey Day did in the 14, and compare you to Corey. Is that an unfair comparison? I mean, looking back at that situation?
I don't think there's any two drivers that are the same. I think he has an insane talent to adapt and to carry a car to a certain level, or drive a car to a certain level that it's on the extreme limit, and gets that last tenth a lap, that last little bit of edge that a lot of us aren't able to get, me included. He's really gifted and he's really talented, and he grew up racing those cars. He's pretty much his entire career has been in one of those, and learning to drive in that piece. He's obviously figured out what they need to make speed, and for whatever reason, for the muscle memory and the feel that I had and have, I just wasn't able to find that speed that he's able to get from them. And and he's obviously just, very, very talented and gifted, is probably as gifted as we'd all hope we could be. But that's also why he's, getting to race on the weekends at the big tracks too. So um,
Well,
I
you're
learned I
gifted
learned a
too,
lot
and
working with him.
you're gifted too, and you proved that. I mean, you proved it a long time ago, but you reminded everybody of it. Those two specific races at Tulare, the high limit race in the W, and then our race in the Tarleton car when you and David had a photo finish, and when the checkered flew, I actually thought you won it, and I think you did too. But I just remember watching, the replay of the high limit race the next day, obviously watching our race there in person, and being like, man, this just seems like a different Spencer than anything I had seen before. And maybe your comfort level at Tulare had something to do with that, but it just seemed like you were really driving your ass off, driving really hard, and you got close to two what would have been huge wins. And you mentioned how that kind of brought your stock back up. What brought that version of Spencer Bayston out, and what was different about that stretch of races?
So that's where it's kind of interesting. A lot of people are like, wow, just, what did you change? What was your mindset going into those events that was different than all the other events you've ran ever? It's like nothing was different. I was the same Spencer. I was the same driver. Um, just unloaded with speed. Like we unloaded with a car that made grip and had stable balance, and I was immediately within a couple laps confident. That first week in the W car, confident in its ability, and went out in qualifying and ran two great laps and were quick time. And it's like, okay, that felt good because now I know it's not, I haven't forgotten how to drive because I didn't change anything. I did what I am naturally able to do. And um, all drivers have a natural ability to feel a race car, to drive a race car, to be able to analyze and think on their feet, and navigate a race well. And there's some guys that are able to navigate races better than others. I think I've proven that the last couple, races, making some costly mistakes that ultimately prevented us from getting wins. But at the end of the day, nothing that I was doing was different. Nothing no attitude, no, how I walked into the pit area was the exact same. I walked into pit area every night. I get into the pits, I get suited up, and I'm amped to get in a race car and drive the heck out of it and try to get as much speed as you can. We're all competitive. We all try our hardest every night.
So I texted Ricky Stenhouse Jr. today and asked him what attracted their team to you, and he sent me a list of things. So there's a lot of them. That's I'm sure confident or gives you a little confidence. But one thing that stood out to me, he told me that your attitude and your mentality is the same attitude and mentality that the team have. What do you think those things are that you and Stenhouse Jr. Marshall Racing have in common?
I think, in no order. I think professionalism, I think, is obviously very important. I think when you're wearing a name brand like a NOS Energy drink and representing people, a group of individuals that invest a lot of time, effort, money into a program, they want to see it be handled and pursued professionally. Obviously, that's really important. I mean, I'm driven. I've grew up from the time I was a little kid to wanting to be a race car driver. That's all I've ever wanted to do, and been able to make that happen. And I'm not one to just kind of want to just go through the motions. Like if I'm going to the racetrack, I want to perform. I want to put a smile on all of my people's faces. That's within the team and my crew. Just a good image, I guess. I think they run a very professional operation that I like to think that I try to carry that professional image myself. Um, I don't know, maybe give me some more insight of what else they said. But those are three definite things that I would like to thought they would recognize.
So I also talked to Kyle Puit on Sunday at Angel Park, and asked him about you, and he said that you guys had been communicating a little bit already, and he immediately, without me really having to ask this, he immediately said, "I want to make sure that I am a crew chief for Spencer, that he can communicate with, and I want to make sure I value his feedback and help him find his comfort zone. And he said basically he doesn't want to be a crew chief that says, get in the car and drive it and figure it out. Is that something that's important to you? And was that important to you in your early conversations with Kyle?
It's extremely important. I love Kyle for that reason. I think he's extremely talented. He's very knowledgeable. Just in the short time I've gotten to spend, talking with him and spending time around him, extremely knowledgeable, has a great head on his shoulders, and is understanding of the situation. This is a team that's been in existence with one driver and one crew chief for the last 8 years. It's a bit of a pivotal moment and a little bit of a rebuilding phase, and you have to be open to change, open to new ideas, open to innovation, and open to communicate amongst the team to figure out how can we squeeze this thing as hard as possible to get the most out of it. How can we perform and do all the things right and provide that ultimate result of winning races and chasing championships. And him right out of the gate, and talking with him, like, yeah, this guy's sharp. Like, this guy's got it going on. And I immediately, without even working a day at a racetrack with him, and confident in his ability. And I'm so excited to start, going to the track with him and the rest of the team, and start working on this thing and see what we can do.
Can you expand more on how important it is to have a crew chief, though, that wants to work with you and basically give you a race car that you're comfortable with instead of needing you to adapt to however he sets the car up?
Yeah, I think to that point, it's really important for a crew chief, in my opinion. It's really important for a crew chief and a driver to be on the same page, as in agreeing with what we need to do to the race car. How does the race car need to handle? How does he need to get around the racetrack? And then also a crew chief that's honest and tells you, if he sees something that I'm doing wrong, to fill me in. What do I need to do better? What did you see there that I can improve on, and do it in a manner that's not talking down, but also uplifting, because he shares the same interest that I do, and that's to be successful and perform. So it's important for a crew chief and a driver to be able to communicate on the same wavelength and work together, rather than kind of have a wedge in between and point fingers of, oh no, you need to do this better and I'm fine. It's we both put your guards down, work together, and try to accomplish the one goal. And that goal isn't possible, in my opinion, if there's not that coexistence in the space of working together and trying to accomplish what you're set out to do.
Was that aspect different for you in the past?
I mean, I've worked with a lot of different crew chiefs and car owners and teams. So I've experienced kind of all aspects, I guess. I feel like I've worked with the younger guys that don't have as much experience and kind of need led a little bit. I've worked with the middle of the road experienced guys that are kind of in that, still trying to prove themselves. And then there's the group that's, extremely established. Like, they know what they're doing, and they for sure want you to know that they know what they're doing, and that's fine. I've enjoyed little pieces of all of those scenarios. The experienced crew chief is, extremely valuable because, they have the experience. They know exactly what adjustments to make at the right time, and there's definitely good things to come from that. And then the very opposite end of the spectrum, the young guys that don't have a lot of experience, that's not a bad situation either, because you're trying to then grow together and you're learning together. So Kyle being kind of in that middle of the road, older than I am, a great leader, has, past experience, past driving experience, raced himself for a long time. So he understands a lot of, I think, what a driver is trying to say and convey in conversation about a race car and how it gets around a racetrack. So I've worked with kind of all different types. And I think that middle of the road, kind of where I'm at now with Kyle, is going to be the best scenario.
So you come back on the Outlaw Tour having been a proven winner with the series and competed with the Outlaws for 2 seasons before. As competitive as sprint car racing is, what do you think it takes to be successful with the World of Outlaws in 2026?
Consistent speed and no DNFs. I mean, that's ultimately like obviously needing to unload fast on a nightly basis. Obviously, you can't be quick time every night, but to have that qualifying speed, I think, is one of the most important things. If you can start in the front row of the heat race every night, it changes the game. And then as long as you can get to the end of the night with not having any major issues, your program is going to improve from there, and it's you're going to be able to do all the fine tunings that you need to in order to be able to compete at the highest level. If you're trying to just find speed, or if you're trying to make sure things aren't failing on you, you're not focused on the things that win you races.
Do you think it could be a benefit to you? And in no disrespect to High Limit, they race 50 to 60 times a year. So the last 2 years, you haven't raced every single weekend. The Outlaws are pretty much every weekend, February to November. 4th of July is off, and you'll catch a weekend that gets rained out here and there. Do you think it could be a benefit to you going back to being behind the wheel of a sprint car 80 to 90 times a year?
Yeah, I think the more you race the better, the more reps you have, the better you're going to be. Obviously, this past year, obviously we didn't run our full schedule because we obviously split ways in August with the 14 car, but it was our purpose set out was to run as many races as possible. But running with the same group, the same series for those 80 or 90 times a year, definitely getting those reps in, I think is key to performing at the highest level. And the more you race, the better you should become. So definitely eager to get to race, a lot this year and see a lot of different racetracks.
So 2 more questions for you, and I want to talk a little bit outside of racing. You haven't talked about this publicly, but I think people are going to be really, I think surprise is the right word, but I think people are going to really like this next part that we're going to talk about, and that's what you've dabbled into since you parted ways with the Force Teen and the things you've done outside of racing. So I talked to a good friend of mine that I don't even know if you know that I know him, Jeff Dodge, on the phone today, and he told me that when the announcement came out, you were standing in the back of a dump truck breaking up sand, and whenever you parted ways with the 14, you called Jeff about learning the excavating business. That's what he has an excavating business in the Indianapolis area. And man, I was like, if I ever pictured Spencer having a job outside of racing, like I would have guessed like professional golfer or something. But you found a blue collar side, and he told me that you've really proven to him how hard of a worker you are. So kind of like, what piqued your interest in that?
Um, I mean, a number of things. I'm not one to sit still. So obviously, we come home from Knoxville. We're going out to California to run a couple races, and then really to the end of the year, not sure what it was going to look like. And I'm not one to be able to just sit at home and twiddle my thumbs and wait 4 weeks to go to the next race. So the other side of that is I've always been inspired by business owners, anyone that's kind of an entrepreneur, hardworking, work for themselves type of idea. And growing up out in the country, we always had tractors and four-wheelers and dirt bikes and livestock. And kind of what blue collar really is I grew up kind of doing yard work and doing, work with the animals. So I enjoy being outside. I enjoy working, as odd as it sounds. So when the opportunity presented itself and talking with some other individuals that kind of knew Jeff, introduced us, and I pursued just pretty much asking him like, hey, I'm not sure what your scenario is right now, but I wouldn't mind just kind of coming following you around for a little bit and seeing what it is about this excavating business that I've always found so interesting. To get my hands dirty and just try to learn and take opportunity at the time to see what the business was all about. For possibly a potential business opportunity down the road. I'm always kind of thinking outside of racing too, and what does the second half of my life look like? Obviously, you can't race until you're 80, so just started playing around with some excavators and skid steers and moving some dirt around, and I've really enjoyed it, and it's been great to keep me busy and uh, you know keeps me active, gets me a good sweat in when I'm not getting a race um, every weekend. So it's been enjoyable.
He said that after the Tulare race, when you ran second to gravel, he said he did not expect you to. He said he didn't expect you to definitely come to work on Monday, but he said he didn't think that he'd really probably see you much after that, just as kind of figured you were going to be back on the racing thing every weekend. But you showed up to work Monday, didn't you?
I did. Was there bright and early before the sun even came up, and I think the look on his face was kind of funny when I showed up. But like I said, I enjoy the labor side of it, and I really enjoy the learning. So it's been a good opportunity, and hopefully can kind of still kind of dabble in it in and around the races that we're going to be running.
Well, I applaud you for sticking your neck out and doing that. I feel like a lot of people wouldn't do that just in general, let alone race car drivers. So props to you for that. You're going to run World Finals for SJMR, make your debut there, and kind of get a head start on next year. Usually you go out and do some midget racing on the West Coast. We usually see you at the Chili Bowl. Outside of that, what are your and Audrey's plans for this off season and as you prepare for Volusia next year?
It's just what you said. Just prepare for Volusia. You think sitting here today, it's like, oh, Volusia's like so far away. But by the time holidays come around and a little bit of travel to Kansas to spend time with Audrey's family, a little bit of family time with my family, go run Chili Bowl, and all of a sudden you get home and it's 2 weeks, and you got to be on track in Volusia. So it's just kind of getting everything lined out, get all of our ducks in a row, but also then spend as much time as we can with the 17 team and kind of get everything there prepared. Have our meetings and make sure that we got everything lined out and we're as prepared as we can be rolling into next season. So it'll be a busy winter, but we're definitely excited for the process to build for the beginning of next year, and definitely excited to get going.
Well, hope to see your parents on the road a little bit next year too. I've always thought a lot of them. So, man, we're pumped to have you back on tour. Thank you so much for taking time out of your evening to sit down with us, and we'll see you in Charlotte here in a couple weeks.
I appreciate it, guys. Thank you for having me on, and we look forward to seeing you.
Appreciate it, Spencer. Take care.